Hello, word nerds. Welcome to the ad for my podcast called The Dictionary. My name is Spencer Parks. I host this podcast. I read the dictionary, the words, the definitions, etymologies, even more. I talk about it. I try to explain things. I also sometimes try to put in some silly jokes or silly sing-songy things. You know, it's just a fun way to read the dictionary. Sometimes I have guests on, and I hope that you will turn on this podcast, check it out, start from the beginning, and, enjoy this, what I like to call edutainment. Check it out in all the places that you can find podcasts.
Hello, and welcome to How Did This Not Get Made?
This is the podcast all about the movies that were never made, the scripts that were never written, and the ideas that never even made it to the page. My name is Daniel Kaka.
And I'm Lexi Riley.
Welcome back. We've had a little bit of a hiatus.
Fires.
Our city was on fire.
We're safe, just so everyone knows.
Yeah.
But
our city's still on fire as of recording this, and apparently a new one has happened.
yeah,
So that's fun.
there's too many to count at this point.
Mhm. Yeah. Although it's supposed to rain.
Honestly, everybody do a rain dance because we need it. Although not too much because then we'll get a mudslide.
Yeah. For a place where everyone sees as like a wonderful place to live, we are a very fragile land.
It is a wonderful place to live, except for that once a year when we get some unprecedented event.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get into...
An unprecedented movie?
Yes. Now, I just want to ask you, what is your history, not necessarily with Gambit, but with the X-Men? Let's just say that.
Outside of Deadpool,
Mhm.
that's like my gateway in. But unless homework was given, it was never part of me.
Mhm.
The theme song came on, and I heard it for the first time in my life.
That theme song is the anthem of a 90s child. I don't know if I am allowed to bring this up, but you worked on a potential X-Men property.
I did?
Yes, you did.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
I mean,
you did.
I'm in the credits. Yes, I worked on Ms. Marvel.
Yes.
And she is a mutant.
She is a mutant because I remember at the very end,
Kamala, there's something different in your genes. Like a mutation.
Oh, yeah, and I asked you what that was.
yeah, and like I freaked out because
Right.
I knew exactly what that was, and that told me that she's a mutant. She is an X-Men. They're like crossing over finally.
Oh, I forgot about that moment. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
very proud of working on that.
Mhm,
It's a
mhm.
really good show.
Yeah.
I guess Ms. Marvel's my gateway, not Deadpool.
For me, I watched the X-Men animated series.
The 92 series.
The 90s cartoons that appealed to little boys was like always the superhero ones, and
They all appeal. Like, okay, because we just did Sonic.
Mhm.
They're very little boy oriented. I guess we got Disney princesses.
Yes, you did. On the DC side, at the very top was the Batman animated series. And on the Marvel side, the top cartoon to watch was the X-Men animated series.
Yeah.
There was Spider-Man, but it was not as popular as what
There was
X-Men
a
was.
Spider-Man cartoon?
It was a Spider-Man animated series too.
As a little girl in the 90s, whew, all of it's gone.
Mobius makes an appearance in it with Blade.
Morbin time?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
My girl Scarlet Witch shows up in the X-Men cartoon.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Because Scarlet Witch is the daughter of...
Magneto!
For me, X-Men was one of the many cartoons that I watched because, like I said, stuff targeted to little boys.
Yeah.
I was in that perfect demographic. The intro song for it, there's like a list of TV shows where you never skip the credits.
Yeah.
And X-Men is on the list of like that. It is X-Men, it is Dexter, it is The Simpsons. Like you just never, ever skip the credits.
Boy shows.
Boy shows, a lot of boy shows.
Yeah, I, watched the episode that you gave me for homework and then watched more just because I was curious about Gambit. I guess we haven't said Gambit.
I mentioned Gambit a little bit.
Okay. But that theme song's fun.
Yes.
Like even as an adult, I was super into watching it. I'm very excited for this episode.
Yeah.
I have a lot of questions. Just
Sure. Let's dive into this. Now, do you know when Marvel first started? Like the comic books?
oh no,
Okay, so it was founded, I know it was the 60s
with Stan Lee.
with Stan Lee,
Okay.
yes. Around the 60s is when Marvel first started. I guess I just want to ask, like, how old of a character do you think Gambit is?
Oh boy. He's got to be one of the early ones, right? There's some things that aren't aging well with him. So I'm going to go with older. But you're going to tell me like
I'm going to tell you immediately what it is.
89.
89?
No, that's not my guess. I'm going to get... Was I right? I would say based off things that aren't aging well, it's the 60s. But your face when I said 89 leads me to believe it's 88.
You went in the wrong direction.
Story of my life.
Because Gambit wouldn't appear in the comics until 1990.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he is a very young character. I'm shocked how young he is.
I'm uncomfortable.
Blade is older than him.
Ugh. Blade is my childhood. Blade Trinity is the first R-rated movie I ever snuck into.
Ooh.
Ryan Reynolds, Jessica Biel.
Yep. And you can listen to our Blade episode. Or no,
There's a Blade episode.
no, we talk about Black Panther and Blade makes an appearance in there. We'll start going into kind of the history of this character. We're not going to go into the history of X-Men itself. I think I would save that for like a much bigger episode, like if we do the Catherine Bigelow X-Men movie.
Dips.
From what I remember, the X-Men came out of Stan Lee just kind of being sick of making origin stories for all of these characters. He's like, you know what? They're born with it. They're born with powers.
Maybe it's Maybelline.
Yeah. So a lot of these characters don't really have too much of an origin story. They're just like plopped in. They're just like, you know what? They just live on Earth. They have weird abilities, and I'm just going to carry on.
So, because Deadpool is newer than Gambit in the comics.
So Deadpool is younger, but only by like a few months.
No way!
Yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense as to why include Gambit in Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah. So let's get into the history of this. But before we get into the history of that, let's get into the history of these
Ads.
advertisements. Welcome back to the Dogcast. So
Oh, wow.
Woo.
Yep, real big dog cast.
let's get into the history of Gambit, or do you know his alter ego name?
Remy LeBeau.
Remy LeBeau. So he made his first appearance in August 1990 in The Uncanny X-Men number 266. He was created by writer Chris Claremont and artist Jim Lee, who is actually currently the president of DC Comics.
Wait, what? They switch back and forth a lot throughout
Yeah.
history.
Whenever anyone's like, DC's better than Marvel, Marvel's better than DC, it's like, guys,
You're flipping a coin.
the artists, the writers, they just went back and forth to each other. And that's why we have characters who have the exact same powers in both universes.
Captain Marvel, Jean Grey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Chris Claremont, he's best known for collaborating on multiple X-Men storylines, including the Dark Phoenix saga and Days of Future Past. He's responsible for co-creating many X-Men characters such as Rogue, Phoenix, Shadowcat, Mystique, Emma Frost, Jubilee, Shadow King, Sabretooth, Legion, Mr. Sinister, and the Marauders, just to name a small fraction of the many characters that he's made throughout his career.
That's a lot.
It was a
And
lot.
that's a lot of heavy hitters.
Yes. I mean, there was a whole list that I went through, and I was just like, just anything that was mostly recognizable.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot that he had created. Back to the comic. Even though this is the first time that we see Gambit, his appearance is not that significant. It was kind of used as a way to get the story from point A to point B. So in the storyline, Storm, Aurora Monroe.
Whoa, that's Storm's name?
Yeah.
I-
Aurora.
I've
Yes.
never seen any of the like 90s early aughts X-Men.
So Storm, she was taken captive by Nanny and Orphan Maker. They were a strange duo that kidnapped mutants and de-aged them. So Storm was then turned into a teenager. She manages to escape and then gets captured by the Shadow King, who has been trying to capture her to absorb her powers. She manages to escape his clutches and then runs into Gambit, who is there on a separate mission to steal some paintings from Shadow King.
Because he's a thief.
Mm-hmm. He spots Storm and sees the Shadow King's hounds trying to capture her. For the first time, we see Gambit use his powers. His eyes grow green, and an electric energy shoots out of them. And from his sleeve, a small spike appears. It absorbs the energy from Gambit's eyes, and he throws the spike at a wall behind one of the hounds, and it explodes.
That's a cool power.
Mm-hmm.
The main thing that I took away is the playing cards and like the magic. And that feels more like weapony.
Yeah, that came down to more of a logistics thing. I couldn't find exactly where he first did it, but it was more of a logistics of just if he's able to put kinetic energy into an object and make that explode, what is something that he could keep on him that's like lightweight, that he can store a lot of, and like playing cards was the perfect weapon for him to have, just to be like, and to toss it.
Right.
And it just looks cool. That has range between playing cards and tarot cards. But yeah, he throws the spike at the wall, it explodes, and then he grabs Storm's unconscious body and then carries her to safety. The two of them team up and defeat the Shadow King, and Gambit helps restore Storm to her normal self. In Uncanny X-Men number 273, which was released in December of 1990, we see Gambit has joined the X-Men team. When in the issue, you actually see him wearing an official X-Men uniform.
What?
Again, he's not supposed to be a focal character. He just shows
He's a background
up.
actor.
Yeah, there's no ceremony. Professor X is not knighting him into this. And ironically, the name of the issue is Too Many Mutants.
That's great.
Mm-hmm. It was hard to keep track of him, and Gambit just kind of slipped in and no one noticed. Initially, there is a confrontation between Gambit and Wolverine when the two of them are training in the Danger Room, which is overlooked by Jubilee. Wolverine is defeated by Gambit.
Oh.
Yeah, Gambit is one of the few people that can take down Wolverine.
With his playing cards.
Yes.
I'm not going to let the playing cards go. I actually really enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking for a big lore as to why that was the thing.
It just came down to logistics. It wasn't too much of a lore. I was honestly trying to find like when the first times for a lot of these things were, and I knew cards were that, but I was shocked to find that the very first weapon he used was a spike.
Yeah,
But it
me
all makes
too.
sense. Yeah. The first time we see Gambit's romantic relationship with Rogue is in X-Men Volume 2, issue number 24, that was released in July of 1993. We see Rogue and Gambit on a date in a Manhattan restaurant. This takes place after the events that led to the character Magic's death. The character's name is Magic. They confront each other. Gambit is asking about Rogue's real name and confesses that he's had feelings for Rogue since the start when he first laid eyes on her. And Rogue asks about his marriage to Belladonna, or his wife Belladonna, and why he doesn't talk about her.
That's one heck of a first date.
Kind of sus right there.
Can you tell me your real name? Well, I'd like to know about your marriage.
Let's just
Glaze right past that.
So you fell asleep during my movie. Big deal, right? How do you clear this thing?
But eventually the date goes down to like Rogue is just afraid of hurting Gambit just because of her powers.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
The date went well?
It went well, but
But
they just couldn't kiss, and he's just like, I guess we're just not a couple who kisses.
this Twilight?
Yes. So we're going to break away from the comics, and we're going to talk about Gambit in the X-Men animated series. X-Men, the animated series, it first premiered in October 31st, 1992. Now, if you recall from a RoboCop episode, this wasn't the first time the X-Men animated series was attempted. In 1989, a pilot episode known as X-Men Pride of the X-Men was created in the hopes of it getting picked up, but it never came to fruition. This was part of the RoboCop episode because there was a RoboCop animated series, and they used the budget for the 13th episode of that series to create the pilot episode, Pride of the X-Men.
I love a backdoor pilot.
Mm-hmm. Also, since Gambit wasn't created till a year later, obviously, he was not part of the cast. After failing to get picked up, Fox Entertainment went back to the drawing board and reworked the show. They tasked Saban Entertainment, the same company behind Power Rangers, to produce the show. Saban hired the studio Gray's Entertainment to animate the episodes. Mark Edward Edens and Eric Lewald, they were hired to write and run the show. Eden's kind of his brief history. He is behind The Adventures of Johnny Quest, the real Ghostbusters, Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers,
Rescue Ranger Chip and Dale. Sorry, had to.
Tailspin, Beetlejuice, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and G.I. Joe Extreme.
I forgot about the Beetlejuice animated series. It's pretty good.
Eric Lewald, he is behind also The New Adventures of Johnny Quest, Popeye and Son, Chip and Dale,
Yeah. I won't do it twice.
The New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, Tailspin, Darkwing Duck,
Yeah.
Beetlejuice, and Gargoyles.
Oh, yeah. Again, that's a boy-heavy list of
Yes,
shows.
right in my wheelhouse.
I just like Lydia Deetz.
And as a little boy, we did too. When Edens and Lewald conceived of the show, they drew a lot of inspiration from the Uncanny X-Men comic series. Even Gambit's introduction runs somewhat parallel in the pilot. In it, a Sentinel is hunting down Jubilee, a teenager who recently discovered her mutant powers. She's blowing off steam at an arcade when a giant robot smashes into the building. We see Gambit flirting with a clerk while he's buying a deck of cards.
You must like to play cards.
I like solitaire, okay? Unless I got someone to play with.
When Gambit spots the Sentinel, he springs into action, throwing his explosive cards at the robot. He assists Storm and Jean Grey in taking down the giant, and Jubilee is taken to the X-Mansion to heal. It's assumed that Gambit is just part of the team. Also, Gambit is given a thick Cajun accent, something decided by the showrunners. Yeah, there's even...
Oh, what?
Yeah, I even found the voice notes for like what they were looking for, and it said heavy Cajun, primitive French, sexy, mysterious.
Oh my God, that wasn't in the comic book at all.
I mean, he was from New Orleans. That was in the comics, but like outside of that, they were just like, I don't know.
Fair enough. Carry
Yeah.
on.
And the primary voice actor of the Ragin' Cajun was Canadian-born Chris Porter.
Oh my God.
How did you do that?
With style, Petit. With style.
They made the character mysterious because he was literally mysterious to the showrunners.
We don't know who you are, so like just wing it.
Yeah. Eric Lewald explains in his books previously on X-Men, we set up the character of Gambit to be mysterious, in part because in 1992, we, and even Marvel, knew so little about him. Back to the pilot episode. In the next scene, we see Jubilee tries to escape from the X-Mansion, and she's caught up in a battle between Wolverine and Gambit. After helping Gambit defeat Wolverine, it's revealed that they were just sparring.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Just for fun. Just for kicks.
They just didn't take it to the danger room, essentially.
Right. Typical Tuesday.
Yeah. Like in the comics, he's just part of the team and always mysterious. Until the episode Externally Yours, and that premiered December 4th, 1993. In this episode, Gambit gets a call informing him that his brother Bobby has disappeared and he's responsible for bringing the tithe to the External. Gambit travels back alone to his home, New Orleans. We flash back to when Gambit was in the Thieves Guild. Every 10 years, the Thieves Guild and their rivals, the Assassins Guild, offer a tithe to the External. If you do that, the guild is given an increase in their powers, and if you fail, the guild's chosen one is imprisoned in oblivion.
Murdered.
This time, the chosen one is Bobby. Gambit reunites with the Thieves Guild, and he's informed that the Assassins have his brother. We also get some exposition that this ritual and rivalry has been going on for over 300 years.
Very, very long.
To free Bobby and the tithe, the Assassins will exchange them for Gambit. Meanwhile, Rogue, Jean, and Wolverine track down Gambit. Gambit finds Bobby in the Assassin's quarters and tells the guard,
Remy LeBeau, here to see my brother.
And for the first time in X-Men history, we hear the alter ego name for Gambit.
What?
Mm-hmm.
That's the first
The
time?
very first time, yeah.
Remy and Robert. Bobby.
Yeah.
Robert Bobby.
We get more exposition that Gambit wants nothing to do with the thieves and assassins. Plot twist, this was all a ruse set up by Gambit's ex, Belladonna. Originally, Bella and Remy had planned to marry each other, but because she was an assassin, the two would have been killed.
The real Romeo and Juliet situation.
Yeah. Remy left and became an X-Men, and Bella resents him for not taking her with him. She tells him that she still wears the ring, and to complete the transaction, Gambit must wear the ring that she has for him. His brother is set free, and the ring is revealed to be a trap that causes excruciating pain and removal of his superpowers. Wolverine, Jean, and Rogue find the thieves' headquarters just before Bobby arrives and informs them that they made the switch. It's also revealed that Belladonna is the leader of the assassins, and she's the chosen one. Belladonna gives her villain's monologue, stating that she never gave Bobby the real tithe, and when the external sees it, she'll destroy all of the Thieves Guild. At the tithe ceremony, Gambit yells out that the tithe is fake, and they all fight. They all stop when the external appears. The guilds offer their tithes, and the external sees that the thieves have not offered what was promised. Before the external banishes the thieves, Jean telepathically shows the external the truth. The external is about to punish Belladonna by killing her, but Gambit steps in with a different punishment.
Take her powers, but not her life.
It is done.
Belladonna pleads for Remy to stay, and Remy returns the ring and says,
This is not my home. I am not thief or assassin. I am an X-Man, and I'm never coming back.
Bum, bum, bum.
That is the closest we got to
A backstory.
an early origin story of where he came from.
Poor Belladonna.
Poor Bella. Now, while the animated series was airing, a Gambit solo series was in the works at Marvel Comics.
This is nuts. I mean, he's a background X-Men, not to be mean.
Yeah, but there's so many characters, too, to be like, oh, he's kind of rising to the top. People like him. We should really invest more in him.
That's bananas to me, considering the Rogue, the Jean Grey. Like, there's plenty of more forward X-Men, and everyone's like, nah, Gambit.
People like a bad boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
The first issue of the Gambit solo series was published in October 1993, just 2 months before Externally Yours had aired, which means the showrunners had to be working with the writer Howard Mackey and artist Lee Weeks to help establish who the character was. In the comics, a few things were established so that Gambit's origin stories wasn't completely made up or like fabricated like on the spot. So writers Jim Lee and Howard Mackey established the Guilds and Belladonna in a crossover comic between Ghost Rider and the X-Men.
Interesting.
The External and the Tithes were not mentioned. The mythology of the Guilds were better covered in the solo Gambit series. In the series, we learn that the Thieves and Assassins Guild is spread throughout the world, and they must give a tithe to the External named Chandra every 7 years, not 10 years. In exchange, she gives them the Elixir of Life, aka the Infinity Formula. In the comic, it's established that Gambit has an older brother, Henry.
What?
Not Bobby.
We're going to run into some Sonic doctors here.
Yep. Henry infiltrates the X-Mansion to get in contact with Gambit. In the show, Gambit just gets a phone call.
Oh my God.
As for Gambit's marriage to Bella,
Oh, yes.
they did marry as teenagers in hopes that they would end the feud between the Assassins and Thieves Guild.
Okay, that's straight up Romeo and Juliet.
Bella's brother, Julian, cannot accept their union or the peace treaty, so he duels Gambit. Julian is killed, and Gambit flees from New Orleans. There is also a moment in the comic where Belladonna's skin touches Rogue, and Rogue sees all of Bella's memories with Gambit.
Is Rogue his like new love interest? They were the ones on the date.
Yes, they were the ones on the date.
Got it.
Rogue and Gambit as a couple is like a very famous
Oh.
couple in the Marvel Comics.
Rogue has the white strip.
Yeah, Anna Paquin.
Okay. What is Rogue's powers?
She is able to absorb powers by touching a mutant's skin,
Okay.
but at the same time, she could potentially kill them.
Oh, that's why it's a no titchy situation. All right.
Yeah, so if you remember when she kisses her boyfriend in, I think it was the first X-Men movie, like he all of a sudden,
Seen it.
oh, yeah, he goes into a coma.
Oh,
If she touches a human, she basically just like could kill them. Like,
that's a rough. I want that life story.
yeah, in the first movie, there's a great demonstration of her powers when She sees that Wolverine is having a nightmare. He's going through PTSD, like
Right.
how he got created. And then all of a sudden, like he wakes up and he his claws out and stabs Rogue. But in the process of doing so, she's also touching Wolverine.
Oh.
And Wolverine, his powers is to heal quickly. And like,
Oh, that's dope.
yeah. And then she heals quickly.
Right.
But then Wolverine is like suffering and doesn't really know why.
Yeah, it's a vicious circle you're in.
Yeah. We're going to fast forward
Great.
into the X-Men movies.
Yes.
Something you might have noticed when you've watched any X-Men movie is a significant lack of Gambit.
Yeah.
From what I found, it seems that they were hoping to set up the character for something much bigger, like his solo film. We'll get there. Don't worry. In the original X-Men, when they came out in 2000, in the script, Gambit was meant to appear in the Danger Room, but the scene and the character was written out and cut back for the budget.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, this is very early on, and they're just like, this movie's already ballooning up as is.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many of them, you really got to cut it down. Being lost on the cutting room floor as an X-Men makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. In X2, which came out in 2003, Gambit was set to make a cameo in the scene where Professor X is forced to kill all the mutants on the planet. And we're going to get a shot of Gambit as one of those mutants. The scene was shot with Hugh Jackman's stunt double, James Bam Bam Bamford.
Bam Bam.
Who was cast in the last minute to fill the role. The shot was removed in the final cut of the film, so they did film it.
So he's the first live action
Yes.
Gambit.
Yes, technically, yes. There is a quick blink or you'll miss it Easter egg where we see on Stryker's computer screen a list of mutant names, and one of them being LeBeau, Remy. In X-Men, The Last Stand, this one came out in 2006, director Bryan Singer fully intended to have Gambit as part of the main cast in hopes that the role would be portrayed by Keanu Reeves.
Whoa.
I've seen many strange things already.
Since Singer left the project to direct Superman Returns, plans to bring Gambit fizzled out since Singer was the only one who...
Oh, poor Gambit.
Yeah, he was really the only one pushing for that character. There was an early draft that had Gambit as a student at the Xavier School, and he would compete with Iceman over his affections for Rogue.
Oh, the love triangle.
In another draft, Gambit was one of the mutant prisoners Magneto freed from the convoy. Another actor considered for the role, your boy, Josh Holloway.
Oh, Sawyer. Oh, he'd be a really good Gambit.
Right?
Oh, no.
I know.
Oh, my vote has changed.
I know.
You're really gonna leave me here with a mad scientist and Mr. I Speak to Dead People?
Yeah, as much as I love Keanu Reeves, I truly believe that Josh Holloway would have been the better choice.
I tried. I actually screen tested with Hugh Jackman. And the funny thing was, it hurts my soul. It was amazing because they said, "You're it. You're the guy. You're Gambit." And I shook my hand. Everybody, and then someone said, "We're looking for some studio head." That day, called them and said, "I want someone really young, like that kid in High School Musical." That's what they said. And I was like, "Oh!" So there I went.
Feel robbed.
I know. But there were so many scheduling conflicts that he had when he was filming
because he
Lost.
was lost.
Yeah, and he was just unavailable.
Because he was stuck on an island.
Yep. Then there was Channing Tatum. He was cast for the role. Now, unfortunately, the scene was cut out of the final script before shooting, so he never got a chance from the beginning.
I don't know that I want to step into Josh Holloway's shoes.
They justified this because those involved thought that Gambit should have a much bigger role if he was going to be introduced into the film, very similar to Beast. In 2009, we finally got a Gambit on the silver screen with X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Are you Remy LeBeau?
Do I owe you money?
No.
Then Remy LeBeau I am.
Oh my God. Okay. So this was in my homework list and it was an optional. And if you know me, I always do the optionals. And I got up to grab a snack or something, because you were like, you can watch clips, and I was like, I'm just gonna take a sick day and watch the whole thing. Got up to grab a snack or something and came back, and the movie was still going, and the movie ended, and I went, where the hell is Gambit?
Oh, you missed the part where they went to the
I missed
bourbon
the
room.
4 minutes of screen time where they go to a casino.
Yep.
I rewinded until I found him.
Mm-hmm. In New Orleans, there is a casino on the French Square, but it's not on Bourbon Street like they present it in the movie. And I know the reason why they show Bourbon Street. It's kind of like the reason why whenever you show an establishing shot of Los Angeles and you're just like, there's the Hollywood sign. We're going to shoot this in West Covina. It was the same thing here where it's like, we got to show that we're in New Orleans. The most famous place in New Orleans is Bourbon Street.
Right. That's like a teensy bit of fan service to be like, a true fan knows that he's from New Orleans. So doing that quick establishment, you're like, oh, I get it. I'm there.
Yes. For anyone around the world who's never been, it's like, oh, perfect. I got it in my mind.
I didn't know.
This is New Orleans. Yeah.
He's like generic Southern.
Yeah.
It's very subtle.
He just has like a twang to his voice, but it's not very predominant. It's not the Cajun accent that we...
Like you said, twang is the perfect... It's not a standard Southern accent in any way, shape, or form.
Large blinds 100, small blinds 50.
And this seemed to be around the time where whatever it was in Hollywood, producers, when it came to seeing what a superhero on a movie screen needs to look like, needs to be drastically different from what he looks like in the comic books. For whatever reason, they're like...
It's John Carter, right? That's
Yes, it is John Carter. But I blame the very first X-Men when Wolverine sits down in the seat and he's in the costume for the first time. And he's like...
You actually go outside in these things? What would you prefer? Yellow spandex?
Right, because that's why it was such a big thing that we're coming back to comic book accurate things.
Yeah.
Am I going to war or a circus?
What'd you expect? Black leather?
So that's why you get the portrayal of Deadpool in like the one of the most insulting ways. I can see why fans now look at X-Men Origins Wolverine and they're like, what are you doing?
Also,
what are you doing to these characters?
Sabretooth and they're like brothers?
Yeah.
But that's not lore. I Googled that. The lore of that is muddled.
Yeah.
But we never see them in anything else together again.
No. Even in the first X-Men movies, like they don't treat each other like they know each other. They're just like, oh, we're enemies, we're fighting, that's it.
That movie gave him a quote unquote origin story, but it felt like it conflicted everything else ever.
Yeah.
Like the Deadpool, and then his mouth is gone.
Yeah. Because he was just annoying and they're like, we don't want him to talk anymore.
But then he can have apparating powers. What?
It's such a terrible portrayal. Even Gambit kind of got shafted as well. In that
they removed all of the fun quirks of his personality. I don't think that actor did a bad job playing what they wanted.
Yeah, I don't blame him at all.
No, but like I was really confused at what Gambit was supposed to be.
Yeah, and for that to be his introduction. And even Deadpool, I vaguely knew about Deadpool because I was on Reddit and Deadpool just became like very popular on Reddit, and then there were rumors of like him being in a movie and like everyone showing what he looked like in the comics and how he acts and all that stuff, and it was like, oh, this is gonna be fun. And then it's to the movie and you're just like, wow, they done him dirty.
Deadpool always has like a hint of annoyance with him. He's not funny. He's not like quick-witted.
It's just more of like, he's just annoying.
He just talks.
Yeah, and like that was not it. And then he had incredible sword skills.
Yes.
I guess. I mean,
he could split a bullet in two and aim it so that it took out people.
I really love that shot, but yes, it
is
so
a cool
weird.
shot, but I was like, what is happening?
Yeah. So the plan was to have Channing Tatum in the film as the Raging Cajun, and but unfortunately he had scheduling conflicts when he was cast in G.I. Joe: The Rise of Cobra.
Ah, yes.
And he was just unavailable.
Blockbuster of the year.
But instead they cast Taylor Kish. That's who we were talking about.
John Carter.
Yes, John Carter. Kish was cast, and he was actually signed on to a 3-picture deal.
Oh, no.
With his next film being a solo Gambit movie. Now, he wasn't the only character to do so. They also made the same deal with a little-known actor named Ryan Reynolds and his character Deadpool.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
They stuck them in Wolverine as their pseudo origin.
Yeah, their pseudo origin to kind of introduce
Like the cameo, yeah.
Yeah, to be like, this is the character. And did you watch the post-credit scene of X-Men Origins?
No, I missed Gambit, so I had to rewind and find him.
Yeah, in the post-credit scene, in the rubble, you see an arm come out and it reaches for something and it reaches for a head. And that head is...
Deadpool?
Well, it's Deadpool. It's Experiment 11 or something like that. It shows Ryan Reynolds and his mouth has been split open from the fall and he goes, shh.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it's like Deadpool is coming back.
That's fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So unfortunately, a few things were working against Kish. First off, X-Men Origins was not great. Fans truly hated the film and the portrayals of Gambit and Deadpool and so many other characters in that movie. The other was Kish's other film he starred in, John Carter, and Battleship, proving to Fox Entertainment that he was not the new leading man that they thought he would be.
There's like a little bit of a curse around Gambit.
Yeah.
I feel bad for everyone who was sort of cast or tried to be involved.
Yeah. But do you know who was a rising new lead man in Hollywood?
Channing Tatum.
Channing Tatum.
Step up to in the streets.
Yes. Now, I hate to do this, but I really think it's important to tell the story
of Channing Tatum.
Well, in order of when the X-Men fans would have received it. In 2008, Marvel Comics set out to release a new series of comics known as X-Men Origins. Although it seems planned that the Marvel Comics would come out with a series of X-Men Origin comics and Fox to premiere X-Men Origins Wolverine, I could not actually find a connection that they were all coordinating this.
Huh.
Writer David Benioff worked on the Origin script for 3 years before he was hired in October 2004.
3 years.
Yeah. The script drew inspiration from Barry Windsor Smith's Weapon X story. There's also the Chris Claremont and Frank Miller's 1982 limited solo Wolverine series and the 2001 limited series Origin. The closest connection I could find was a standalone comic series Wolverine Weapon X written by Jason Aaron to take advantage of the Wolverine attention. The comic does not fall into Marvel's Max continuity nor the film franchise, but it does draw a lot of inspiration from them. The X-Men Origin series that was first published in May 2008, starting with the character Colossus. They would run through other characters as well, such as Jean Grey, Beast, Sabretooth, and Wolverine before they got to the origins of Gambit, published in June 2009. Here, for the first time, we get a detailed origin story of Gambit. In the comic, we see a 8-year-old Remy, a thief with mutant eyes. One day, he notices a girl around his age eating some ice cream just before a group of agents attempt to kill her.
Oh.
Remy steps in and fights them off, and she steps up and starts killing them by throwing knives. Turns out this is Belladonna Boudreaux.
Oh, what a cute origin story.
The princess of the New Orleans Assassins Guild. Years later, we see Remy is about to get married to Belladonna. Remy's father tells Remy that this marriage is a
sham.
Well, it will be a ceasefire needed to end the feud between the Thieves and Assassins Guild.
Ooh, I like that.
Just after they marry, Remy is attacked by Bella's brother, Julian. He could not accept the union, and he assumed that Bella was marrying into the Thieves Guild. Remy and Julian duel, and Julian is killed when Remy throws a knife into Julian's shoulder and explodes by accident.
Oops.
The truce is destroyed, and Remy is exiled. Remy continues to travel the world, making a living as a thief for hire, all while his powers become stronger and more out of control. To seek help with his powers, he goes to the mutant geneticist known as Mr. Sinister. Mr. Sinister agrees to perform brain surgery on Remy to control his powers. And in exchange, Remy was asked to lead a team of mutant assassins known as the Marauders on a secret mission. Turns out the Marauders were tasked with killing the Morlocks in an event known as the Mutant Massacre. When realizing what's going on, Remy wanted nothing to do with this. He tries saving as many mutants as possible, but he's only able to save one kid. He continues to roam the earth until we're caught up to the moment when he saves a young Storm.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. And now we're
full circle.
So that is his true origin story. And to think, like, we didn't get that till 2009.
Yeah, because he was, what, 1991?
1990 is when he first came out, appeared.
That's nuts.
Yeah. This brings us to the development of the solo Gambit film. In September 2013, while during a White House Down press event, Channing Tatum was asked about potentially playing Gambit, and he answered with a quote, "I would like to play Gambit. Gambit's my favorite. I'm from New Orleans, around that area. My dad's from New Orleans, and I would like to do a Cajun accent. I could do it for real. No knock on Taylor Kish, though, because I actually like his Gambit, but I've always lived around Cajun people."
Yeah, we don't be knowing that lid ain't coming off without that dome gonna come off with it.
I'm so sorry, beautiful. I want this to be gentle. Who is your dialect coach? The Minions?
Gambit was always like the woman-loving, cigarette-smoking, drinking guy. He was the punk rock of all superheroes. He's a thief. He kind of rode the line. In January 2014, producer behind the X-Men franchise, Lauren Schuler Donner, revealed that she was planning on making a solo Gambit film with Tatum. And as for the story, she said, "It doesn't have to be a great big movie. It's a thief in New Orleans. It's a whole different story. Tatum's on board, and I have to get the studio on board." By May, it was official when Tatum signed on to be Gambit in his own solo film and would debut the character in X-Men Apocalypse. That's the one that came out in 2016.
With Poe Dameron.
Mm-hmm. My first thought when he was doing this is that he was going to be one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
Gambit was?
Do you remember the movie?
No.
Okay. So in
like I said, I'm calling him Poe Dameron because I can't even remember his real name at the moment.
Oh.
Oscar Isaac. There we go. I just had to admit defeat.
Oscar Isaac. He's looking for like 4 different mutants that were supposed to represent the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
Who were they?
There was Storm, Magneto, Psylocke, and Angel. And in the comics, there was a brief moment where after Gambit was killed, he came back as one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse as Death.
Oh, that actually would have been a really cool tie-in.
Yeah. Turns out that was not the case. He was supposed to be just in a post-credit scene. But it was really cool.
Yeah, if his introductory is that he's dead and they somehow have to like bring him back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. I would watch that movie.
I would too. By October 2014, Josh Zuderman, he's the writer behind the newest RoboCop, the one that came out in 2014, and Patriots Day. He was hired to write a script based on the treatment written by Chris Claremont, the creator of Gambit. In January 2015, Fox announced the release date, October 7th, 2016. In May 2015, Zuderman submitted the first draft on what would be Gambit's origin movie. In June 2015, Channing Tatum did a Reddit AMA to promote Magic Mike XXL, but all anyone was really interested in was the Gambit movie. He was able to reveal, without breaking any NDAs, that he would no longer appear in X-Men Apocalypse, but they did find a director, Robert Wyatt. He's the director of Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
I was going to say that name sounds familiar.
And that filming would begin in New Orleans in October or November of that year. According to Collider, in July 2015, Fox was pushing the Gambit movie to be a bigger spectacle in order to make the character as popular as possible and proposed a $153 million budget to make the film. And they also emphasized that $111 million would be going directly to Louisiana.
Oh, I thought you were going to say directly to Channing Tatum.
No, he's not The Rock.
Wait, that money was going to New Orleans? Sorry.
It was going to Louisiana.
Oh, okay.
Because Louisiana had I think they still do have a tax credit for productions that are down there. But yeah, that was the big emphasis of like, there was Georgia, Louisiana, Michigan for a little while. For Lauren Schuler Donner, Channing Tatum, Josh Zuderman, and Robert Wyatt, they wanted a smaller scale movie that would focus on mobsters and thieves and didn't want a end of the world stakes, which not every superhero movie needs to end with like...
No, that gets burnt out real quick. If it had been like a heist movie...
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. It was rumored that Tatum nearly dropped out of the project when he learned that Fox wanted Gambit to be one of the anchor characters in anticipation that Hugh Jackman was going to end his run as Wolverine. This was also the time that Entertainment Weekly published the epic cast photo, which was shot by Sarah Dunn.
Here we go.
Showing the extended X-Men universe with Channing Tatum wearing a Gambit t-shirt. Have you seen this cast photo?
It reminds me of the Dark Universe.
It very much has that same vibe.
What I'm quickly learning is that you got to be careful with the cast photos.
Yeah.
Are they all in t-shirts?
No, actually, just Gambit is the one who's in a t-shirt. And it's
That's actually quite fitting for the character.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't as big as I want it to be.
Oh. Who is Miles Teller supposed to be?
He was in the Fantastic Four. Mr. Fantastic.
Oh, this was when we were doing that. Was that Fantastic Four with Fox, I guess?
Yeah.
Oh.
This is all Fox.
Who was Rooney Mara?
Fantastic Four.
Oh.
The Invisible Woman.
Great.
You should watch the Fantastic Four.
I've seen it because Michael B. Jordan was also in it.
Mm-hmm.
Evan Peters is making a very wonderful Evan Peters Quicksilver face. Mm-hmm. And Channing Tatum in the Gambit shirt. Everyone else is so serious. They are in their own photo.
Uh-huh.
And I really like it.
They're having the time of their lives.
Yeah. Enjoy going to work. Like, that's the goal.
It's like the two of them took a shot at tequila before they took this photo.
Yeah. Evan Peters is still taking it.
Mm-hmm. On August 28th, 2015, the second draft of the Joshua Zudermer's script was submitted. And this is the script that got leaked. And we will be going over that in part 2 of our episode.
I'm so excited for this.
Mm-hmm. Now, all you need to know about the script for now, because we're actually going to go through the entire story of
come on,
how this almost happened and how it did not.
Rude.
I know. But all you need to know about the script is that this is going to be a Gambit origin story. He is not going to join the X-Men. This would have primarily taken place in New Orleans in the 80s. This is after the events of Days of Future Past and Apocalypse. The story they were hoping to tell was a heist film, but with mutants, and his love interest would have been Belladonna.
Yeah!
Potentially played by Léa Seydoux. You might know her from various 007 movies, The Lobster, Blue is the Warmest Color. She played Belle in Beauty and the Beast, not the one you're thinking of, but the remake that was made in 2014.
I was going to say the made-for-TV movie?
Was it made for TV?
2014 Beauty and the Beast.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, she's not ringing any bells. Sorry. But I don't think I've seen any of the things that you listed.
Do you watch movies?
I do. Apparently not X-Men related movies.
Did you watch Dune Part 2?
Yeah, didn't I see that with you? No, I saw that with other roommate.
Anyway, in this very incestuous picture, she's the sister.
Oh. Okay, so I have seen her, but
yes.
Not in a lot of things. 007, who's the Bond?
Daniel Craig.
Okay.
In September 2015, director Robert Wyatt dropped out of the project due to scheduling conflicts, with changes in the script and having to work around Mardi Gras. Filming would have taken much longer and would have overlapped into his next project. My guess from looking at his IMDb, it would have interfered with the Exorcist TV series that he was set to produce and direct the pilot of. This is also around the time that Fantastic Four had come out and flopped. This forced Fox to reduce the budget of the film. This also contributed to Wyatt leaving. This changed Gambit's potential in debuting in X-Men Apocalypse, where he would appear in the post-credit scene. But instead, we got the introduction of the Essex Corporation, which also takes place in the original Gambit script.
Oh, okay. So there's it's tethered.
Yeah, they're setting it up, but they don't want to promise too much.
I mean, I get it, considering all things.
By November, Wyatt was replaced by Doug Liman. He's the director of Swingers, Edge of Tomorrow, Bourne Identity, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and Jumper. In January 2016, it was announced that the film would begin filming in March, and in February, Fox announced that Gambit would no longer be released by October.
Yeah, that's a tight turnaround.
Yeah, it is. In May, producer Simon Kinberg, the producer behind every X-Men film since First Class, he explained that they were unhappy with the script. The most important thing is getting the tone and the voice right. We are hoping that Gambit is like what Deadpool was, the start of a new franchise with the X-Men universe. We want to make sure that we get it right. In July, Kinberg announced that the production was happy with the newest draft and that filming would begin hopefully in 2017.
Good Lord. It's so much time has passed.
Mm-hmm.
Again, every time we have an episode, we say, I can't believe any movie gets made.
Yeah, it's a miracle. In August 2016, it was reported as a mutual split, but Lyman had left the production to direct a DC film, another famous unmade film, Justice League Dark.
Oh.
The film was also attached to Guillermo del Toro for a bit.
Whoa.
And it looks like Lyman was signed on after he had left. The film would have followed the characters John Constantine, Swamp Thing, Deadman, Zatanna, and Etrigan the Demon. Back to Gambit. While production was looking for another director, Tatum carried on and ironically made another heist movie, Logan Lucky.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Did you watch that?
I didn't get time.
Oh, it's fun.
I couldn't remember what the name of that movie was until you just said it.
Yes. Definitely watch Logan Lucky. I don't think you needed to know about that, but it is a great movie to know, like, this is Tatum around this time making a heist movie.
Mm-hmm.
You could have seen the potential of like what it would have been like or what the tone would have felt like. But he reunited with the Ocean's 11 and Magic Mike director Steven Soderbergh.
Steven Soderbergh did Magic Mike?
Yeah. That was one of his like, this movie's for me type movies.
Yeah, I saw it for the first time like 2 years ago. It's a fun time.
Yeah. And also a heist movie. He just loves heist movies. In February 2017, Kinberg was interviewed by comicbook.com all about the upcoming X-Men films. He mentioned Logan, the Deadpool sequel, and an X-Force film. Quote, "It's in active development. It's a movie that we hope will be ready to go by the end of this year and shoot next year. We have 2 or 3 X-Men related movies this year, so we can wait at the moment. The process has been that Tatum is as determined about getting the character right as Ryan Reynolds was about Deadpool, and Hugh Jackman was about this Logan movie. We know that when we get those right, the movie succeeds, and we want to make sure that we get Gambit right because we want him to be the beginning of a new franchise."
The Gambit franchise.
Yeah. There was a lot riding on the solo Gambit movie. I didn't realize that much about it. I just knew that Gambit was supposed to get a movie, and that's really about it. It wasn't like we're turning a new stone.
There was a plan to let Wolverine go and move on with his life. And it sounds like Deadpool and Gambit were the new faces of it.
Yeah, they were going to be the new cornerstones.
That's a very quick-witted, kind of dirty take on superheroes.
Yeah. In 2017, Comic-Con, Tatum talked about the Gambit film, and he was grateful about the delays. With Wolverine and Deadpool, this really changed the tone of the X-Men franchise, and Gambit would have immediately felt dated had it been made sooner. By August, it was announced that they were starting the script over.
Oh my God! The lady writer who has been attached for like almost a decade at this point has got to be like, okay, draft 77.
The lady writer.
Wasn't there a lady writer?
There was a lady producer.
Oh.
Donner, I believe, is married to Richard Donner.
Oh. Okay, so lady producer. But like the team has stayed just almost the same. And like to stay with a project for this long is incredibly impressive.
Yeah. In October, the film was given a new release date, February 14th, 2019.
For Valentine's Day.
Mm-hmm. And Gore Verbinski, he directed one of my favorite horror films, The Ring.
That's one of your favorite horror films? That's a different podcast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
What else?
And he directed Pirates of the Caribbean.
There it is. It's going to be my top like 15 favorite movies.
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting director choice for me.
Yeah. They also announced who the costume designer was going to be, and that was going to be Jenny Bevan. She was the costume designer behind Sherlock Holmes, Fury Road, Furiosa, Cruella, and ironically, Gambit, but the movie that came out in 2012.
There was a Gambit movie. Oh, not a superhero, just the type.
Yeah, it's kind of like how the Avengers movie with Uma Thurman and Ray Fiennes. It's
it's
like
just
that. It just happened to be named Gambit. Yeah.
Again, though, you have a director of Pirates in the Ring, which are darker toned. That costume designer, darker toned.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Gambit as gritty or dark toned.
Mm-hmm.
So this is an interesting stab.
Yeah. Although Pirates of the Caribbean is very humorous.
It is, but I wouldn't call it like a comedy.
It's an action movie with funny moments.
Like sleuthed in.
Mm-hmm. And then in November, Lizzie Kaplan was cast as Belladonna.
No! Shut the front. That's why you were like keeping it that at bay. Mm-hmm. My girl, Lizzie Kaplan.
Yep.
I don't want to wait for somebody to give us a chance. It's time that we took a chance for ourselves.
I need everything else thrown out. And I need a Gambit story with Josh Holloway and
Lizzie
my girl
Kaplan.
Lizzie.
There was also another casting. They didn't say for who, but it was Little Rel Howery. You might know him as like the best friend in Get Out. He's the one that he calls.
I love him.
It was a movie that I was attached to with Channing Tatum that we were gonna do, and then whatever happened. But it was in that world. So I was like, damn, man.
It wasn't Gambit, was it?
Yeah.
I think they were going to cast him as Henry, as Gambit's brother. I cannot confirm it, but that's the only casting that makes sense.
Okay.
Location scouting would begin in New Orleans, and by December, it was announced that the filming would begin by March 2018.
Good God.
Yep. In January 2018, Gore Verbinski left the project because of a generically sugar-coated reason of having creative differences. But this forced Fox to push the release date to June 7th, 2019.
I actually get creative differences is totally a sugar-coated answer.
Yeah.
But I agree. The producers, the Channing Tatum, that cast are all very humor-based.
Yeah.
And that's the thing they've been working towards. So then you throw this darker toned horror action director at it. I think I get it. I understand this delay and step down.
Yeah. So Fox was scrambling, and it was reported in April that they still couldn't find a director. Around this time, Fox had teamed up with Big Easy Studios, the same studio behind Logan, to help produce the film. The release date, again, was pushed to March 13th, 2020.
Oh, well.
Yep.
No need to explain this delay.
Nope. In October 2018, Kinberg was interviewed with Collider about the progress of the film, and he stated that the script had changed significantly from its initial incarnation. The focus fell away from being a straight heist film and leaned into being an R-rated romantic comedy.
That's still fun.
That would have taken place in the 70s. But since Gambit was a thief, heist elements would still remain in the story.
He stole her heart.
Yeah. I'm guessing that they went in the direction of making an R-rated movie after seeing the success of Deadpool and Logan. Both of those were R-rated movies.
Correct, yeah.
In January 2019, it was reported by Deadline that Channing Tatum dropped his reps at UTA and Management 360. The rumor was that he wanted to direct the film with his producing partner, Reed Carolyn.
That, again, doesn't surprise me with the amount of
delays, and be like, I know this so well.
It sounds like Anna Kendrick in the Woman of the Hour movie that came out. That was her directorial debut. They just couldn't find a director, and she's like,
I'll do it.
I'll try.
Yeah.
And she did a great job.
Yep. They never explicitly said that they wanted to direct the movie, although they did end up co-directing the movie Dog. So it shows that they were really willing to try this out.
Well, maybe that was their test run.
Yeah. While in the background of this development hell, Disney was in the process of buying Fox, and negotiations were soon coming to a close. In February 2019, producer Lauren Schuler Donner announced that the production for Gambit would pause until the deal was finalized. Unfortunately, when the film was put in the hands of Disney, the release date was removed from the schedule, and in May, it was officially canceled. Gambit was not the only movie on the chopping block. There was also going to be an X-23 film, a spin-off from Logan, and a third Deadpool, a different film from Deadpool and Wolverine.
It was like a Christmas Deadpool or something.
The Christmas one was supposed to be the second movie. Oh. Yeah. All the film rights for the X-Men then returned back to Marvel Studios. So this brings us to how we got Gambit in Deadpool and Wolverine. Director Sean Levy was the one that approached Tatum to portray the character, and he was more than grateful to finally play Gambit. Also, a huge shout out to the costume designer Reyes Rubio for creating a comic book accurate costume.
My only thing about Deadpool Wolverine, and maybe I just wasn't focused enough, I wanted more of his eyes to change.
Yeah.
But other than that, and that's not the costume designer, that's the VFX department.
Yes. When it came to his accent, his lines were written in a way to be nonsensical, according to Levy. It was then that Tatum just laid down the accent thick. He understood the assignment and then
He's
really
gonna make a name
leaned
for
into
himself.
it. Yes.
You know how long I've been waiting for this? Woo, I'm about to make a name for myself here.
I watched the assembled for this, the shot where you have Elektra and Gambit and Blade and
X-23.
X-23.
X gonna give it
But
to
like
you.
those three in particular, Blade, Elektra, Gambit, you can tell how just like they're so happy to be there.
They're just so jazzed.
They were all like standing around and looking at, I think, like a previous thing. And you can see the excitement just like emanating out of them. And then they go to do something else and they're like, all right, that's like, we're done with the day. And he's like, do we have to?
I didn't want to stop yesterday. Everybody was like tired. I was like, do we have to go home? Do I have to take it off?
After the movie had come out, Channing Tatum took to social media and he actually put out a quote. He said, I thought I had lost Gambit forever, but Ryan Reynolds fought for me in Gambit. I will owe him probably forever, because I'm not sure how I could ever do something that would be equal to what this has meant to me. I love you, buddy. I'm so grateful to be in this movie. It's a masterpiece, in my opinion. The pure badass joy. I was literally screaming in the theater.
I hope he like just went and sat in theaters and let people, people screamed in my theater when he came on screen.
I freaked out.
I didn't know. I freaked out when Elektra came on screen because it's my girl, Jennifer Garner. I was just like, oh, everybody gets excited. Who is this character?
In a post-credits scene, which is hard to make out, there on one of the TVA screens, we can see Gambit managed to survive the battle. Later, Ryan Reynolds confirmed this on his Instagram account, that Gambit did indeed survive when he posted the full video. So there is potentially a way that a Gambit movie could be seen in the future.
Nice. And that's what you sent me, right?
I did send it to you. I said just one more thing.
Just one more thing. And
I
it
sent you
was
that
really
video.
good.
Mm-hmm.
I wish you had sent that to me before I watched Deadpool and Wolverine. The TVA screens, I think I just want to watch one day. Because I'm sure, like, why is Thor crying? We never got that answer.
No, we didn't.
Maybe we'll get it in the Gambit movie. We'll know why.
Mm-hmm. So that's going to conclude part 1 of our Gambit episode. In part 2, we are going to actually just dedicate the whole thing to just the
Josh
script.
Holloway and Lizzie Kaplan.
Yes. It's going to be just the script, the one that it was the second draft. Remember, it came out around like 2015.
Got it. When it was still a heist movie.
When it was still a heist movie, and that is what we're going to be going over. Before we go, do you have any movie recommendations?
Oh my God. Do you have one?
I recently saw Nosferatu.
Just be nice. No spoilers, because I haven't seen it yet.
In it, everyone's hot for Nosferatu. Now, I thought it was beautifully done, beautifully shot. You could definitely tell that Robert Eggers just loves the original movie so much.
The only thing that's gotten ruined for me is what he looks like. And I don't understand the mustache.
There was a historian that explained the mustache and why that was, because if he was someone who was of nobility, but they show that a lot of those who were in high power who were...
But he has no hair on his head. So just the mustache remains?
Yeah.
I found it very distracting from the one shot. And people started sending it to me and I was like, again, I have not seen it. Be nice. Be kind.
It's beautifully done, beautifully shot. The way that the coloring works for it, like there are moments where I thought, did they just make it a black and white movie or they just toned down so much of the color? But still, fantastic.
I've seen Wicked like 6 more times. I bought it. Look at how many times I've seen Wicked.
You have a sickness in your head.
I do. It's ossifying. There's several movies that I'm really excited to see, so I'm going to do another blind recommendation of The Last Showgirl. With, Pamela Anderson and Jamie Lee Curtis and Kiernan Shipka and Brenda Song. Like, the cast is phenomenal. Mm-hmm. I've seen a couple of clips of Jamie Lee Curtis. She's like a cocktail waitress in Vegas.
That movie has been circulating around the burlesque community in Los Angeles.
I'm sure it has.
And everyone's like getting behind that.
From what I've seen, it looks really great. I'm in this position right now where I have too many movies I want to see, so I get paralyzed and then I can't choose. But if you haven't seen The Substance yet, I'm going to plug The Substance again because it got an Oscar nom.
Ooh, yeah.
Which is massive for horror.
Mm-hmm. Well, what's our plugs?
We're in a very weird time when it comes to social media.
Yes.
We're in a state of discussion. We keep saying we're in a state of flux, but this is an out of our hands state of flux. This is just a weird time where we're on TikTok, but again, there were fires and it got taken away and we'll come back.
We're in a very strange time. I know. Hopefully we're able to just provide some sort of distraction in this world of chaos and hurt. And hopefully we have provided some sort of
Safe
light
space.
for that. And if you want to support the show, there are many ways that you can do so. Best way of supporting the show is directly on our Patreon.
Yeah, that's really the best place to do it at the moment.
If you can't afford to do so or don't have an account, that is okay. There are many other ways that you can provide support. You can follow us on our social media. You can share our show with other movie nerds that are out there. Just let them know about what we do here. On our social media, you can find us on Blue Sky now. We are at HDTNGM. We are still on Instagram at How Did This Not Get Made, and still on TikTok.
Well, we can.
Let's hope it's still surviving.
It changes daily. Nobody get a new phone. And then we've got an email, which if there's something we can do to help in the distraction of this crazy chaotic time, please email us at
notgetmade@gmail.com.
Yeah. That is an open box for suggestions.
So join us next time when we go over the entirety of the Gambit script.
I don't want to wait a week. I mean, I know I don't have to, but
Bye-bye.
Bye.